Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely flip how you think about your money. If you're used to financial advice that literally makes you feel guilty for buying a morning coffee, well, you are in the exact right place. We're moving you away from restrictive deprivation and straight into a life of conscious, totally guilt-free spending. All right, let's dive right in. Let's start with a universally relatable pain point. Why does spending our own hard-earned money often feel so bad? I mean, we all know that heavy emotional weight of buyer's remorse, right? Or the absolute dread of $0 budgeting, where you're forced to track every single penny. Honestly, it just feels like a punishment. To fix this, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The psychology of spending guilt. 2. Experiences over material possessions. 3. Defining your rich life. 4. Identifying your money dials. And 5. Systems for guilt-free splurging. Basically, we'll explore the science of happiness and then give you the automated systems you need to manage your wallet without all that stress.
Okay, Section 1. The psychology of spending guilt. Understanding our brains versus our wallets.
You know, most of us absolutely hate traditional budgeting, mostly because it relies heavily on deprivation and high stress. It feels like you're constantly putting yourself in timeout. But intentional spending? It does the exact opposite. It actually encourages extravagance on your top priorities, and it uses automated goals to keep you entirely guilt-free. Intentional spending makes both your head and your heart happy. And honestly, if your financial plan isn't doing both of those things, you kinda aren't doing it right.
So standard economics relies on this concept called fungibility, which is just a fancy way of saying every single dollar is identical. But behavioral economist Richard Thaler introduced a totally different idea called mental accounting. And this proves that we actually emotionally categorize our money based on where it came from and what we intend to use it for. We don't act like spreadsheets or robots. We act like human beings driven by subjective emotional value.
Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you just find a crisp $100 bill right there on the sidewalk. Research shows you're way more likely to blow it on a nice, expensive dinner than if you had earned that exact same $100 working a long shift. Why is that? Because your brain uses mental accounting to label that found money as a windfall. It feels totally separate from your boring, hard-earned survival money.
Moving on to Section 2. Experiences over material possessions. The science of happiness.
The main culprit messing with our happiness here is something called hedonic adaptation. This is the psychological process where that initial awesome excitement of buying a new material possession quickly fades away as it just becomes part of your new normal. Think about it, that shiny new TV or that designer bag quickly loses its magic. Give it a few months and it might actually just become stressful clutter. This is exactly why simply accumulating things doesn't equate to lasting happiness.
So what does bring lasting happiness? Well, researcher Amit Kumar notes that people derive much more satisfaction from experiential purchases like a weekend getaway or going to a concert than material ones. Kumar and his colleagues actually looked at data from over 8,000 participants, and the results were crystal clear. Spending on experiences creates way more moment-to-moment and long-term happiness. Those experiences literally become a part of our identity, and we share them with others, which builds real connection.
Fascinatingly, research published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology reveals another incredible layer to this. We actually really enjoy waiting for an experience. We savor that anticipation of a trip or an upcoming show. But waiting for a physical package to arrive, that just makes us impatient and annoyed. So, when you spend on experiences, you're actually getting a happiness boost before, during, and long after the purchase.
Which brings us to Section 3, defining your rich life, shifting from scarcity to abundance.
Personal finance expert Ramit Sethi has this incredibly liberating rule. He says, spend extravagantly on the things you love and cut costs mercilessly on the things you don't. Notice that a rich life isn't just about hoarding $1 million in the bank. It's about having the freedom to aggressively find your specific passions while ruthlessly ignoring all the stuff society says you should care about, but actually don't.
Adopting this philosophy completely shifts your mindset. It transitions you from being a reactive technician, someone who's trapped in a scarcity mindset, constantly worrying about every penny, getting paid just for their time, into an intentional visionary. The visionary embraces abundance. They use money as a deliberate, powerful tool to architect the exact life they want, getting paid for their unique value along the way.
Section 4. Identifying your money dials. Where to turn up the heat.
Now, Sethi outlines 10 common money dials. These are basically the core areas where people find the most fulfillment. It could be convenience, like taking ride shares just to save yourself some time,
Or it could be travel, health, or maybe generosity. Now, your goal here is not to fund all of them. Your goal is to find the 1 or 2 dials that make you the happiest and redirect your spending from those other areas so you can fund your top dials extravagantly.
And Sethi issues a really powerful challenge to test this out. Once you pinpoint your top money dial, take $500 and spend it exclusively on that one category. If your dial is fitness, go book a premium personal trainer. If it's relationships, buy a plane ticket to see your best friend. The whole point is to practice the skill of spending meaningfully, completely without regret. Finally, Section 5. Systems for guilt-free splurging. Automating your intentions. Let's make this practical.
To ensure your splurging is actually safe, implement the 50-30-20 rule. This allocates 50% of your income to your needs, 20% to savings and debt, and structurally gives you this massive permission slip to use the remaining 30% entirely on your wants and your discretionary money dials.
And to make that 30% truly guilt-free, you've got to set up a Splurge bucket. This is a dedicated, fully automated savings account specifically earmarked for your indulgences. Remember mental accounting from earlier? Well, by setting up a Splurge bucket, you're using mental accounting to your advantage. When you finally buy those concert tickets out of this specific bucket, it completely eliminates the pain of paying, because that money was already separated and waiting there just for fun.
This entire system is called backward budgeting. Here's how it works. 1. Define your big picture financial goals. 2. Pay your future self first. 3. Automate your financial savings. And 4. The absolute best part, spend lavishly on the rest. Because you automated your savings and your bills the exact second your paycheck hit, you are officially allowed to spend whatever is left over with absolutely zero judgment and zero spreadsheet tracking. How great does that sound?
So as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with a challenge. If you had $500 right now, which money dial would you turn up? Think about your own financial identity for a second. What is the one single experience you value the most? And how can you automate your system today to start funding it without an ounce of guilt? Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.